There are moments in life when a child's innocence cuts straight through to the truth in a way that adults can never quite manage. What happened on a sunny afternoon in May 2024 on the Family Feud stage was one of those moments. A 7-year-old girl named Chen was about to share something her mother told her backstage, and what came out of her mouth would stop the game completely, reduce Steve Harvey to tears, and remind millions of viewers about the power of a mother's love and the wisdom that sometimes comes from the smallest voices. Before we get into this beautiful story, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on those notifications, because we share real stories about real people that will touch your heart and maybe even change your perspective on life. And if you're already part of our family here, show some love by smashing that like button. Trust me, you're going to want to share this one. Now let me tell you what happened that day that nobody in that studio will ever forget. The Family Feud studio in Los Angeles was filled with its typical pre-show energy. Two families stood ready to compete, the Chen family from San Francisco and the Morrison family from Seattle. Both families were excited, nervous, and ready to have fun. But the Chen family carried something extra with them that day, something that wouldn't become clear until later, something that would transform a simple game show into a moment of profound emotional truth. At the center of the Chen family was 7-year-old Chen, the youngest contestant the show had seen in months. She was tiny for her age, with long black hair pulled into 2 ponytails tied with bright pink ribbons, wearing a purple dress covered in butterflies that she had insisted on wearing because, as she told her mother, butterflies are brave because they transform into something beautiful. Lily stood between her mother, Sarah Chen, and her grandmother, Chen. Also competing were Lily's teenage brother Daniel, age 16, and her aunt Michelle. It was a family affair, 3 generations standing together, and the love between them was visible in every glance, every supportive touch, every encouraging smile. Steve Harvey, in his impeccable suit and with his characteristic warmth, approached the families for the pre-game introductions. He always loved meeting the contestants, finding out what made them unique, what brought them to the show. When he got to the Chen family, his eyes immediately went to little Lily. "Well, well, well," Steve said, kneeling down to Lily's level with a huge smile. "Who do we have here? What's your name, sweetheart?" Lily looked at Steve with big brown eyes, not shy at all, and said in a clear voice, "My name is Chen, and I'm 7 years old, and I'm going to help my family win today." The audience laughed and awed at her confidence. Steve's smile grew even bigger. "You're going to help your family win? That's a big job for a 7-year-old. You think you can handle it?" "Yes, sir," Lily said seriously. "My mama told me something backstage that's going to help me be brave." Steve raised his eyebrows with interest. "Oh, your mama told you something backstage. What did she tell you?" But before Lily could answer, Sarah, her mother, gently touched her daughter's shoulder. "Maybe we should save that for later, baby. Let Mr. Harvey do his introductions." Steve noticed something in that moment, something in Sarah's eyes. There was emotion there, something deeper than just normal pre-game nerves. But he moved on, respecting the mother's wish, though he filed away that moment in his mind. He continued with the introductions, learning that Sarah was a nurse at UCSF Medical Center, that grandmother Wei had immigrated from China 50 years ago and had built a successful small business, that Daniel was a straight-A student hoping to become a doctor, and that Aunt Michelle was a teacher who worked with special needs children. It was a family of helpers, a family of caregivers, a family that had clearly instilled strong values in their children. The game began, and despite her small size, Lily was fully engaged. She couldn't reach the buzzer on her own, so Daniel, her older brother, had lifted her up so she could stand on a small platform the producers had provided. Every time someone gave an answer, Lily clapped enthusiastically. When her family got points, she jumped up and down with joy. When the other family scored, she clapped for them too, which made Steve laugh. "Lily, baby, you know you don't have to clap for the other team, right?" Steve said during one exchange. Lily looked at him seriously. "My mama says we should be happy for other people's success, not just our own. That's what good people do." Steve stopped mid-step and looked at this 7-year-old with amazement. The audience applauded her wisdom. "Your mama is teaching you right," Steve said, visibly moved. "Your mama is teaching you exactly right." The game progressed through several rounds, with both families playing well. The Chen family was slightly ahead, but the Morrison family was right behind them. Lily hadn't had a chance to answer any questions yet. The buzzer rounds had all been won by the adult family members. But then came a question that would change everything. Steve read the card. "We asked 100 people, what's something a mother does that shows she loves you?" The 2 fastest players from each family were at the buzzers. For the Chen family, it was Sarah, Lily's mother. For the Morrison family, it was their father figure. Sarah buzzed in first. "Taking care of you when you're sick," she said. "Survey says," Steve called out. It was the number 2 answer on the board. The Chen family had control of the question and could choose to play or pass. "We're going to play," Sarah said confidently. The question went down the line of the Chen family. Grandmother Wei said, "Cooking your favorite meals." Number 4 on the board. Aunt Michelle said, "Helping with homework." Number 5 on the board. Daniel said, "Giving hugs." Number 3 on the board. They had gotten 4 answers, but they also had 1 strike from an answer that wasn't on the board. That meant they could afford 1 more wrong answer before the other family got a chance to steal. Now, it was Lily's turn. The entire studio seemed to hold its breath. This 7-year-old girl, who had been cheering for everyone and showing wisdom beyond her years, was about to give her answer about what mothers do to show love. Steve kneeled down to her level again, holding the microphone toward her. "Okay, Miss Lily, this is your moment. What's something a mother does that shows she loves you?" Lily looked at her mother, and something passed between them, something profound and unspoken. Sarah's eyes filled with tears immediately, and she nodded at her daughter, giving her permission for something. Lily turned back to Steve, and in her clear, innocent 7-year-old voice, she said, "A mother fights monsters." The audience laughed, thinking it was a cute, childish answer about mothers checking under the bed for imaginary monsters. Steve smiled too, expecting to see this answer not on the board. "A mother fights monsters," Steve repeated with a chuckle. "Okay, baby, let's see if it's up there. Survey says." The answer was not on the board, of course. That was strike 2 for the Chen family. They had 1 more chance. But Steve noticed that Sarah was crying now, not little tears, but real sobs. Grandmother Wei had her arm around her daughter, and she was crying too. Daniel, the teenage brother, had tears streaming down his face. Aunt Michelle was wiping her eyes. Steve's smile faded as he realized this wasn't what he thought it was. Something was happening here, something real and deep and painful. Hold on, Steve said, stopping the game. He looked at Lily, who was standing there calmly, not upset that her answer wasn't on the board, just looking at her mother with pure love in her eyes. Then Steve looked at Sarah, who was trying to compose herself but couldn't. "Sarah," Steve said gently, "what's going on here? Talk to me." Sarah tried to speak but couldn't get the words out. She just shook her head, covering her face with her hands. Grandmother Wei spoke up instead, her voice accented but clear, her own tears flowing. "Mr. Harvey, my daughter has been fighting cancer for 2 years, stage 4 breast cancer. She has been fighting so hard, for her children, for her family, for her life. She is the strongest woman I know." The studio fell completely silent. The Morrison family, their competitors, were crying now too. Steve Harvey, who had seen so much in his years of hosting, stood there with his mouth open, trying to process what he had just heard. He looked at Sarah with new eyes, and suddenly he could see it. The headscarf wrapped beautifully around her head, which he had thought was just a fashion choice. The slight frailness in her frame, the way her family surrounded her so protectively. "You're battling cancer?" Steve asked Sarah softly. Sarah nodded, finally able to speak. "For 2 years. I was diagnosed when Lily was 5 and Daniel was 14. Stage 4. They told me I had maybe a year, 2 if I was lucky, and if the treatment worked. But I'm still here. I'm still fighting." Steve's eyes filled with tears. "And Lily knows?" "She knows," Sarah said, looking down at her daughter with infinite love. "We couldn't hide it from her. She's seen me at my worst, on my sickest days, losing my hair, too weak to get out of bed. But we never lied to her. We told her Mama was fighting monsters inside her body, and that sometimes the fight makes Mama very tired, but Mama never stops fighting." Lily spoke up then, her 7-year-old voice cutting through the heavy emotion in the room. "Mr. Harvey, can I tell you what my mama told me backstage? Is it okay now?" Sarah nodded, unable to speak. Steve, wiping his own eyes, said, "Yes, baby, please tell me. Tell all of us." Lily took a deep breath, and what came out of her mouth next would become one of the most shared, most quoted, most powerful moments in television history. "Before we came out here, I was scared," Lily began. "I was scared I would mess up and not help my family win. I was scared people would think I was too little. I was scared I would say something wrong and everyone would laugh at me. So my mama took me aside backstage and she kneeled down just like you did, Mr. Harvey, and she held my hands." Lily paused, her eyes never leaving Steve's face. "And Mama said to me, 'Lily, baby, I want you to know something. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. Being brave means you do the thing even when you're scared. I'm scared every single day. I'm scared the medicine won't work. I'm scared I won't see you and Daniel grow up. I'm scared I won't be here for your first day of school next year, or your 10th birthday, or your graduation, or your wedding. I'm scared all the time." The entire studio was crying now. Steve had tears running down his face. The camera operators were crying. The producers were crying. Even the security guard by the door had tears in his eyes. Lily continued, her voice never wavering, delivering her mother's words with perfect clarity. "But Lily," Mama said, "I don't let the fear stop me. Every day, I wake up and I fight the monsters in my body. Every day, I choose to be here for you and your brother. Every day, I choose hope over fear. That's what love looks like, baby. Love looks like fighting even when you're tired. Love looks like showing up even when you're scared. Love looks like being brave even when you don't feel brave." Lily's eyes grew a little watery now, but she kept going. And then Mama said, "So when you go out on that stage, if you feel scared, I want you to remember that you come from a family of fighters. Your nai came to this country with nothing and built a life for us. Your brother works so hard at school even when it's difficult. Your Aunt Michelle shows up for children who need extra help every single day. And your mama fights monsters that you can't even see. You have fighting in your blood, Lily. You have bravery in your bones. So don't be afraid to be exactly who you are." There was not a dry eye in the entire studio. Steve Harvey, the man who prided himself on keeping his composure, who had hosted thousands of episodes, who thought he had seen everything, completely broke down. He stood up from kneeling next to Lily and had to walk away from the stage for a moment. His shoulders were shaking with sobs. The producers didn't know whether to cut to commercial. The audience didn't know whether to applaud. Everyone was just frozen in this moment of raw, honest, beautiful truth that had come from a 7-year-old girl explaining what her mother had told her backstage. After a long moment, Steve walked back, wiping his face with a handkerchief, not even trying to hide his tears. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry, I can't. I need a minute." But Lily, sweet 7-year-old Lily, walked over to Steve Harvey and hugged his leg, which was all she could reach. "It's okay to cry, Mr. Harvey," she said, looking up at him. "My mama says tears are just love that's too big to stay inside your body." Steve knelt down and hugged this little girl properly, and the image of this tall man in an expensive suit embracing this tiny child in her butterfly dress became one of the most iconic images of the year. When they pulled apart, Steve looked at Lily and then at Sarah. "Sarah," he said, his voice still thick with emotion, "I have been doing this show for over a decade. I have met thousands of families. I have heard countless stories. But what your daughter just shared, what you told her backstage, that is the most profound, the most beautiful, the most powerful message about love and bravery that I have ever heard." He stood up and addressed the audience and the cameras. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're not just playing a game here today. We're witnessing something sacred. We're witnessing a mother who is fighting for her life with grace and courage. We're witnessing a 7-year-old girl who understands more about love and bravery than most adults ever will. We're witnessing what family really means." Steve turned to the Morrison family, the competing family. "I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to ask you folks, if you're okay with it, to join the Chen family on this side of the stage." The Morrison family didn't hesitate. They walked across the stage and surrounded the Chen family in a group embrace. Strangers who had been competing against each other moments ago were now crying together, supporting each other, united in their recognition of something bigger than a game. Steve continued, "Lily said her mama fights monsters. And she's right. Cancer is a monster. It's a monster that attacks good people, that hurts families, that takes people we love. But you know what's stronger than monsters? Love. A mother's love. A family's love. The kind of love that makes you fight even when you're exhausted. The kind of love that makes you show up even when you're scared. The kind of love that teaches your 7-year-old daughter that being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid." He looked at Sarah directly. "Sarah, you're a nurse. You spend your days taking care of other people, and then you come home and you're battling cancer, and you're still showing up for your children, still teaching them, still loving them, still fighting. You're not just fighting monsters. You're showing your children what real strength looks like. You're showing all of us what real love looks like." Sarah finally spoke, her voice quiet but steady. "Mr. Harvey, I don't feel strong most days. Most days I feel like I'm barely holding on. But when I look at Lily and Daniel, when I see them watching me, I know I can't give up. I can't let the monsters win because my children need to see that their mama doesn't quit. They need to learn that life will be hard sometimes, but you fight anyway. You love anyway. You show up anyway." Steve shook his head in wonder. "Do you hear yourself? Do you hear the wisdom in what you just said? You think you're not strong? Sarah, you're one of the strongest people I've ever met." He turned to Lily. "And you, Miss Lily. You got up here and you gave an answer that wasn't on the board. Your answer was, a mother fights monsters. That answer didn't match the survey. But you know what? That answer is more true than all the answers that were on that board combined. That answer is the realest answer about what mothers do to show love that I've ever heard." Steve looked at the scoreboard, at the game that had been interrupted by this moment of truth. We're going to finish this game, because that's what warriors do. They finish what they start. But before we do, I want to do something. He pulled out his phone from his pocket, breaking every rule of television production. I'm calling my wife right now. Marjorie needs to hear this story. She needs to know about Sarah and Lily Chen. The audience waited in silence as Steve made the call on speakerphone. "Baby," he said when Marjorie answered, "I'm in the middle of an episode, but something just happened that I need to tell you about right now." He quickly explained the situation, and everyone could hear Marjorie crying on the other end of the phone. "Steve," Marjorie said through tears, "tell that mama that we're going to help, whatever she needs. Tell her she's not alone in this fight." Steve looked at Sarah. "You hear that? You're not alone." He hung up the phone and composed himself. "Okay, let's finish this game. Chen family, you have one strike left. You need one more answer. The question is, what's something a mother does that shows she loves you?" It was Lily's turn again. She could give another answer. But before she could speak, Steve stopped her. "Wait, Lily, I want to change something. Producers, can we put Lily's answer back up on the board?" The producers, who were all crying themselves, immediately understood. On the screen, they put up a new number one answer, replacing the actual survey result. It said, "Number 1. Answer: a mother fights monsters." The audience erupted in applause, a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. "That's the number 1 answer," Steve said firmly. "I don't care what the survey says. That's the real number 1 answer. A mother fights monsters. A mother fights cancer. A mother fights fear. A mother fights exhaustion. A mother fights doubt. A mother fights everything that tries to hurt her children. That's the number 1 answer, and nobody can tell me different." The Chen family won the round, and eventually they won the game. But nobody cared about the score anymore. What mattered was the message, the truth that had been spoken, the love that had been witnessed. When it came time for fast money, Sarah insisted that Lily should participate. "She started this. She should be part of finishing it," Sarah said. So Lily played fast money with her brother Daniel, and while their score didn't break any records, watching this 7-year-old girl answer questions with such confidence, such joy, such complete lack of fear after what her mother had told her backstage, it was beautiful to witness. After the taping ended, after the other family had left, after most of the audience had filed out, Steve asked the Chen family to stay for a moment. The cameras were still rolling, but this wasn't for broadcast. This was real. "Sarah," Steve said, "I want you to know something. What you told your daughter backstage today, about being brave even when you're scared, about fighting even when you're tired, that message is going to reach millions of people. And some of those people are going to be fighting their own monsters, and they're going to hear your words through Lily's voice, and it's going to give them strength to keep fighting." He continued, "I've been very blessed in my life. I've been given a platform, resources, influence, and I believe that when you're blessed, you have a responsibility to bless others. So, here's what we're going to do." Steve laid out a plan that left the Chen family speechless. Through his foundation and connections, he was going to ensure that Sarah had access to the best cancer treatment available. He was going to connect her with specialists at top cancer centers. He was going to set up a fund to help with medical expenses that insurance didn't cover. He was going to make sure that Sarah could focus on fighting her monsters without worrying about the financial burden. "But more than that," Steve said, "I want to help spread your message. With your permission, I want to share Lily's story, what you told her backstage, with the world. Because there are millions of mothers out there fighting monsters, millions of children watching their parents struggle, millions of families dealing with cancer or other illnesses, and they need to hear that they're not alone. They need to hear your wisdom about being brave even when you're scared. Sarah was crying again, but these were different tears. These were tears of relief, of gratitude, of hope. "Yes," she said. "Yes, please share it. If our pain can help someone else, if our struggle can give someone else hope, then it's worth it." That's what Lily's name means, you know. Lily means pure. We named her that because we wanted her to have a pure heart, to see the good in the world even when things are hard. And she does. My daughter has watched me suffer for 2 years, and she still believes in beauty, in butterflies, in bravery. That's a miracle. Grandmother Wei spoke up then. "In Chinese culture, we have a saying, 'The gem cannot be polished without friction, nor man perfected without trials.' My daughter, she is being polished by this trial. She is becoming the purest gem. And my granddaughter, she is learning at 7 years old what most people never learn, that love is action, not just feeling. That bravery is showing up, not the absence of fear." Steve nodded, deeply moved. "Mrs. Wei, that's beautiful. That's exactly right." He turned to Daniel, the 16-year-old son who had been mostly quiet during all of this. "Daniel, what's this been like for you, watching your mom go through this?" Daniel, tall and mature beyond his years, spoke with careful thought. "Mr. Harvey, it's been the hardest thing I've ever experienced. Watching my mom in pain, watching her lose her hair, watching her struggle, it's been horrible. But it's also taught me something important. It's taught me what real strength looks like. My mom is my hero, not because she's never weak, but because she keeps fighting even when she is weak. She's taught me that being a man, being an adult, being a good person, it means showing up for the people you love even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." He continued, "And watching Lily process all of this, watching my little sister handle something that most adults couldn't handle, that's been amazing. She's taught me that sometimes wisdom comes from the most unexpected places. When she said that thing about tears being love that's too big to stay inside your body, she didn't read that in a book. She just understood it somehow. She understands that emotions aren't weakness. She understands that it's okay to be sad and scared and still be brave. I learn from her every day." Steve put his hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Young man, you're going to do great things in your life. I can see it. You've got the heart, you've got the character, and you've got the example of your mother and your grandmother and your little sister. That's a powerful foundation." He looked at the whole family one more time. "I meant what I said. Your family is going to inspire millions of people, and I'm going to make sure that you have the support you need during this fight. You're not alone anymore. You've got an army behind you now." When the episode finally aired 3 weeks later, the response was beyond anything anyone could have predicted. The clip of Lily explaining what her mother told her backstage went viral within hours. It was viewed over 200 million times across all platforms in the first week alone. It was shared by celebrities, politicians, cancer organizations, parenting groups, and millions of regular people who were touched by the simple, profound truth of a mother's love and a child's wisdom. The hashtag #AFatherFightsMonsters started trending, but it quickly evolved into #LoveFights. Monsters, as people shared their own stories of fighting cancer, fighting illness, fighting poverty, fighting addiction, fighting depression, fighting all the various monsters that attack human beings. Each story ended with the same theme. Love is what gives us the strength to fight. Major cancer organizations reached out to Sarah, asking if she would be willing to share her story as part of their awareness campaigns. She agreed, always bringing Lily with her, always making sure that the message wasn't just about cancer, but about the broader truth. That being brave doesn't mean you're not scared, it means you do the thing even when you're scared. 3 months after the episode aired, Steve Harvey invited the Chen family back to Family Feud for a special follow-up. When they walked onto the stage, the audience gave them a 5-minute standing ovation before Steve could even begin speaking. Sarah looked different. She looked stronger, healthier. The treatment that Steve had helped her access was working. She still wore a head covering, but her eyes were brighter, her smile was bigger, and the frailness was gone. "Sarah Chen," Steve said with a huge smile. "Look at you. You look amazing. Tell us how you're doing." Sarah's voice was strong and clear. "Steve, I'm doing well. The new treatment protocol is working better than anyone expected. My tumors have shrunk significantly. I'm not cancer-free yet, but I'm winning the fight. The monsters are getting smaller." The audience applauded and cheered. Lily, now several months older but still tiny, still wearing a dress with butterflies, jumped up and down with excitement. "My mama is beating the monsters!" she shouted, and everyone laughed and applauded even more. Steve knelt down to Lily's level. "Miss Lily, the last time you were here, you said something that changed a lot of people's lives. Do you know that?" Lily nodded seriously. "Mama told me that people wrote to us, lots of people. People who said they were going to give up, but then they heard what Mama told me, and they decided to keep fighting." "That's right," Steve said. "Thousands of people. Do you know what that means? That means your mama's words, spoken through you, saved lives. Real lives. People who were ready to give up decided to keep fighting because of what you shared." Lily thought about this for a moment, then said something that once again demonstrated wisdom beyond her years. "Mr. Harvey, I think people already had the bravery inside them. They just needed someone to remind them it was there. That's what Mama did for me, and maybe that's what I did for them. Sometimes we all just need someone to remind us we're brave." Steve stood up, shaking his head in amazement. 7 years old. This child is 7 years old, and she understands more about human nature than most adults I know. He turned to the audience. "When we first aired this episode, I said that this family was going to inspire millions of people, and I was right. But what I didn't fully understand was how deep that inspiration would go. We've received over 50,000 letters and emails from people sharing their stories. Cancer survivors, people with chronic illnesses, parents struggling to be strong for their children, children watching their parents suffer. All of them saying the same thing. Sarah and Lily Chen gave them hope." Steve shared some of the letters that had been sent to the show. One was from a woman named Jennifer in Ohio who had been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer and had decided to stop treatment. She had given up. But then she saw Lily explain what her mother told her backstage, and she changed her mind. "If Sarah Chen can fight for her children," the letter read, "then I can fight for mine. If a 7-year-old girl understands that being brave means being scared, but doing it anyway, then I can be brave too. I started treatment again, and I'm still here. Thank you for reminding me that love fights monsters." Another letter was from a father in Texas whose teenage daughter had been battling depression and suicidal thoughts. He had felt helpless, not knowing how to reach her, but after watching the episode together, his daughter had opened up to him. "Dad," she had said, "if Lily's mom can fight monsters, nobody can see. And if Lily can be brave even though she's scared, maybe I can too." The girl had started therapy and was doing better. "Your show saved my daughter's life," the father wrote. "Thank you for giving her hope." There were letters from teachers who showed the clip in their classrooms to teach children about courage and empathy. Letters from oncologists who played it for their patients. Letters from military veterans who said that Sarah's words about showing up even when you're scared resonated with their own experiences. Letters from people all over the world in dozens of languages, all touched by the simple truth that a mother had shared with her daughter backstage. Steve turned back to Sarah. How does it feel to know that your words have had this kind of impact? Sarah took a moment before answering. Honestly, it's overwhelming. I was just trying to help my daughter not be scared. I was just being a mom. I had no idea. That moment would reach so many people. But I'm grateful. If my struggle, if my fight can help someone else, then it has meaning. It has purpose. That's what gets me through the hard days now, knowing that maybe my pain isn't wasted. She continued, You know, when I was first diagnosed, I was so angry. I kept asking, why me? Why now? My children are young. They need me. This isn't fair. And it's not fair. Cancer isn't fair. Illness isn't fair. But I've learned that life isn't about fair. Life is about how we respond to unfair things. Do we give up, or do we fight? Do we let bitterness consume us, or do we find meaning in the struggle? Sarah looked at Lily, then at Daniel, who stood tall beside his mother. My children need me to fight. They need me to show them that when life knocks you down, you get back up. They need to see that love is stronger than fear, that hope is more powerful than despair. So I fight. Not because I'm especially brave or strong. I fight because I'm a mother, and that's what mothers do. We fight monsters. The audience was crying again, just like they had been during the first episode. Steve was wiping his eyes again. See, there you go again, he said with a laugh through his tears. You keep saying these things that just hit me right in the heart. He turned to Lily. Miss Lily, is there anything else your mama has told you that you want to share with us? Any other wisdom? Lily thought for a moment, then nodded. Yes, Mama tells me something every night before bed. She says, Lily, tomorrow is not promised to anyone. So today, right now, is what matters. Did we love each other today? Did we laugh today? Did we make someone smile today? Did we do our best today? If we did those things, then today was a good day, no matter what else happened. Steve had to take a moment. He turned away from the camera, composing himself. When he turned back, he spoke directly to the audience and the viewers at home. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to really hear what this 7-year-old girl just said. Tomorrow is not promised to anyone. Not to Sarah, who is fighting cancer. Not to me. Not to you. The only moment we truly have is right now. So the question is, what are we doing with this moment? Are we loving each other? Are we being brave? Are we fighting our monsters? Or are we wasting time being angry, bitter, afraid? He looked at the Chen family. This family has taught us something precious. They've taught us that life is fragile and beautiful at the same time, that you can be scared and brave simultaneously, that love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice you make every day to show up, to fight, to keep going even when it's hard. That's the lesson. That's what we all need to remember. Steve turned to his production team. Bring it out. From backstage, staff members wheeled out several large items covered with sheets. Steve smiled at the Chen family's confused expressions. Okay, so the last time you were here, I told you we were going to help with treatment costs, and we have. But the response to your story has been so overwhelming that a lot of people wanted to help too. So we've got some things for you. He pulled the sheet off the first item. It was a large poster covered with photos. These are pictures sent in by people all over the world. Cancer survivors, families dealing with illness, kids who wanted to show support. There are over 10,000 photos here. Each one represents a person whose life you touched. The Chen family stared at the poster in amazement. Sarah's hands covered her mouth as she cried. The next item was revealed, a check for $500,000. This is from donations that poured in from people who wanted to support your family. Some donations were $5. Some were larger. but every single dollar came from someone who was moved by your story and wanted to help you fight your monsters. Sarah couldn't speak. She just shook her head in disbelief. But Steve wasn't done. Sarah, you're a nurse. You take care of other people every day, even while fighting cancer yourself. That's incredible. But your employer reached out to us, and they want you to know that when you're ready to come back to work, your job is waiting for you. And in the meantime, they're covering your health insurance premiums, so that's one less thing you have to worry about. Steve moved to the last covered item. And finally, this one is personal from me and Marjorie. We believe in education. We believe in giving kids the opportunity to pursue their dreams. So we're establishing the Lily Chen Bravery Scholarship. This scholarship will be awarded every year to a child who has demonstrated courage in the face of difficult circumstances. Maybe they have a sick parent. Maybe they're dealing with their own illness. Maybe they're facing some other monster. But they keep showing up. They keep being brave. They keep fighting. Just like Lily. He pulled off the sheet to reveal a framed certificate. The first recipient of the Lily Chen Bravery Scholarship is, of course, Lily herself. This scholarship will cover her entire education, from elementary school through college, all the way to graduate school if she wants. Whatever she wants to study, wherever she wants to go, it's covered. Then Steve turned to Daniel. And Daniel, you told me you want to be a doctor. Young man, your education is covered too. All of it. You focus on your studies and on being there for your family. We've got the financial part handled. The Chen family was overwhelmed. Sarah was sobbing. Grandmother Wei was crying and praying in Mandarin. Aunt Michelle had her arms around all of them. Daniel, trying to be strong, had tears running down his face. And Lily, sweet Lily, walked up to Steve Harvey and hugged him again. Thank you for helping us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And thank you for understanding that family isn't just the people related to you by blood. Family is everyone who refuses to give up on you, and everyone you refuse to give up on. Together, we can make sure no veteran suffers alone, no family struggles without support, and no hero is forgotten. Until next time, hold your loved ones close, tell them you appreciate them, and remember, family is everything.